Okay, cool.
Hi, I'm Joshua Clement. This is
Hector Sosa.
we're gonna debate the Western medicine versus the alternative medicine. So I'm gonna start it off. So off the jump, I feel the Western medicine is just way more superior and way more advanced than the alternative baby medicine.
Baby, huh? Fucking keep that fuck. Well, personally, I believe the alternative medical treatments can be superior to Western medicine because over the course of hundreds and thousands of years, alternative medicine has like evolved. You can say almost at like the same pace as Western medicine in certain countries and certain areas in the world. Like certain alternative medicine has stayed consistent and it works for those certain people.
Well, if we're talking about throughout time, I have read a lot about like the earliest civilizations practicing these type of um, procedures, but like without the resources that we have now. So all throughout that time, the way it has advanced, I think it has advanced way more than the alternative medicine. I think it works way more, and thanks to them in the past to start it so early, we have so many advancements and we learn so much about it, and now we're just at a high point of technology, a high point of medicine.
I can agree to that to some degree, but I believe that um, these advancements we've made in like Western medicine came through the sacrifice of many people, and we've seen that in Medical Apartheid, the book we read for the class, and especially with like how many experiments were done on slaves, on black people, especially, and like even a recent example would be like the Tuskegee like syphilis study where they infected almost like 400 African American men with like syphilis, and then they just did it to get a better understanding of syphilis and like what happens when it's untreated. So I feel like Western medicine has advanced a lot due to like those big sacrifices and like harming a lot of people, and sometimes those sacrifices like we didn't really need them. Like what's the point of understanding like what happens when people who have syphilis and aren't being treated? Like what do we gain for that? Even though like penicillin was found to be a treatment, like what do we get out of that?
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the things you said. But another part of it is currently Western medicine is saving a lot of lives. Like if if we weren't where we were today, a lot of people would have had a lot of ailments and like not really knowledgeable of how to take care of themselves. And also because of the new technology and the more advanced that we got, a lot of lives, like millions of lives, are saved thanks to that.
Trying to think about a rebuttal.
But also for my other argument, like for alternative medicine, you could like pick it up off of somebody else, off of like a neighborhood person, somebody that you found on YouTube or something like that, like reading online. But for the Western medicine, like you have to take years of learning, training in the field, and then you would be able to finally get a job and like do what you spent so many years learning about. So I think just for that, the people are more educated, you know, instead of just just finding random concoctions online.
Okay. I I I kind of agree with that, kind of don't, cause like chiropractors, they're not considered Western medicine. It's alternative medicine. But like, if your back hurts, like most of the times, a physician or like your doctor's gonna send you to a chiropractor, cause like where else can you go? And that's just one example. And sometimes a lot of medication and a lot of medicine like presented and created by Western medicine like may not help everyone, you know, like there's certain people who's allergic to like main ingredients in medication like Advil, like aspirin, and like ibuprofen, like those common like over the counter drugs. So like for people like that, they can't necessarily go to Western medicine, and sometimes that alternative medicine can help them. Like for example, faith healing. There's a movie coming out soon. It's called Breakthrough, with this young man. He falls through ice, and everyone prays for him, and he comes back alive. And like, I've seen a bunch of stories like that, you know, and they're based on a true story. That's what it says in the movies. So sometimes when Western medicine doesn't work for everyone, alternative medicine like faith healing or maybe folk healing can help for others.
Yeah, but for people that aren't like everybody else, like biologically, like say you're allergic to this type of medication, it's rare, but sometimes they do have like alternate medications for like certain pills or whatever. Say that you're like you can't have that because maybe like you're pregnant, something like that, or just your biological state. Like they have certain not common medications for your for your disability or whatever you're going through. And for alternate, I think it's just good for like your basic needs, like. But for the Western, like it's the like major ailments that's like you may die from, that you're not yourself anymore. Like I think the alternative just like helps you feel better, you know, or it could make you feel better mentally. You, what do you think?
Well, I could agree with that to some degree, but I feel like in Western medicine, like there's a lot of emphasis on drugs and like pharmaceutical companies, you know, and like we see on TV every day, like they have medication and like medicine ads, like it's candy, or like we're at a toy store, you know, and that's a major problem, and it's concerning because when you see a bunch of those medications like and like you go to a doctor asking them, it might sound good at first, and like they give you a prescription and like you go on about it, and then what if you start seeing more and like you start getting more problems, unless if there's side effects from that first medication, that you go on keep taking more medication. And like sometimes doctors would be openly like willing to hand out those prescriptions because they know they might be getting paid from like pharmaceutical companies, and like big pharma companies, like that's what they want to do, like pump out a bunch of drugs, and like if doctors are helping them, they'll probably get some type of compensation. So I feel like there are like certain cases where you can only do Western medicine. There's no alternatives. Like you have to take this medicine, But I feel like um, in our society, like we put a large emphasis on like prescription drugs and like over the counter drugs while doing activities like Tai Chi or like doing like the like what's the thing called? The when they put the pins in your body? Um like acupuncture. Like sometimes people get de-stressed from that, but like let's say you're stressed or something, do you go to your doctor and they'll be like, oh, do exercise or something? Like alternative medicines, like they'll do something outside unrelating to big greedy money making pharmaceutical companies, and a lot of the treatment can be done like by yourself or like with experts in that field. And I say experts in that field because of what you brought up about like it's more rigorous for Western medicine.
Another part of the alternative side is the placebo effect. So a lot of it, the like homemade like medications, I guess, medications. The homemade medications, like, it's like it's more of a placebo effect, cause like you see somebody make it and use it, and you hear that it works for them because they said so. But like when you use it for yourself, most of the time it's just a mental effect. Like you like think that it's making you feel better, so like then you actually do feel better, but the whole time it's just weird because like it wasn't really doing anything for you physically.
Yeah, that's definitely true, but like there's been numerous studies where like the placebo effect like actually helps people, and like there might not be a difference in like some participants who are in the placebo and get like the actual drug. Sometimes it could be like the people in the placebo group actually did better than the people who taking this new drug that they're trying to put out. And a lot of it, like you said, is like them thinking in their head that they're gonna actually be better and better off for like the medication. And but sometimes like that could actually work for people. Like let's say you had like an illness for so long, you've been to so many doctors, this and that, and they always denied you. They always said, oh man, I really don't know, I don't know how to help you. They forward you to specialists through like many referrals, and then over time like you didn't really find a source. So like you're desperate and you're like, oh man, I hope this new drug could help me. And then by chance you get in the placebo or the control group, and then you're given like the sugar pill, and then you feel great. You're like, man, that pill really worked. They told me it worked, and it worked. Like that's just an example of how sometimes like your state of mind and you feeling that you're being taken care of can do a lot more for you than like these drugs, these like heavy drugs that come with like crazy side effects like suicide, depression, weight loss, yada yada yada, you know.
Yeah. But to basically wrap it up, I think what we really need is to like work together, especially patient compliance. Cause like I remember from the book The Spirit Catches You, patient compliance was like a major part of helping the child get better. Cause the parents, you know, they were basically on your side of this argument, and like so both of their opinions clashed together. But the patient, the parent's child, like they weren't like I would guess like they weren't part of it. They weren't part of the decisions to help themselves. So I think patient compliance could be very helpful in these situations like that, helping the patient get better. You know.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that because Western medicine, like you said, has proven to work. But a lot of people, they might, like, let's say in other developing countries or like third world countries that has just a different culture. Like sometimes the alternative medicine may work for them, but at the same time they need to realize like they need Western medicine too. So I definitely feel like it shouldn't be a one side thing. Like Western medicine is definitely better than alternative or Eastern medicine, but there should be a combination of the two, and hopefully it helps a lot more people.
Indeed.
That's it.
Alright.